Welcome back, everybody. This video is sort of part 2 of the nipple shield, but it's basically going to be just about weaning. Some people are sometimes given the nipple shields and they're not given the instructions on how to wean, or even given the idea that they'll need to wean from the nipple shield. Babies can get so used to nipple shield just like they can with a bottle, and so weaning from a nipple shield, that's kind of the disadvantage. A lot of times when a mom is using a nipple shield, the advantage outweighs the disadvantage. Some moms are able to successfully use a nipple shield for the entire amount of time they plan to breastfeed. Check out my video on, being successful using the nipple shield. So let's talk about weaning. So the first bullet points: ensure good positioning and latch. So a lot of times positioning can really help with latching. When you are positioning your baby to nurse, you want to make sure that you're holding him so that his whole body faces yours and that he shouldn't have to turn his head to nurse. I will try to include a picture. You then want to wait for the baby to open their mouth really wide as if they're yawning before you actually attempt to latch them on. It's very possible it's going to take time for waiting for him to do this, but once he does, you're going to pull him very close to you, making sure that he takes as much of that breast into his mouth as possible, as I mentioned before, and that his chin and nose touch your breast. His lips should be flanged out. I'll see if I can find a good picture for that to insert as well. Before attempting to feed them, it mentions pumping a few minutes and that this will kind of help the letdown so the baby gets a quick reward, and it also elongates the nipple for him. This is a really good tip. I think with weaning, one of the reasons it's so good is because when they get on and they start sucking, the milk is already there, and if they're not sucking very well, it's hard to get that letdown. And then of course, when you've been either hand expressing or using a pump, does not have to be electric, but whatever type of pump you have, it kind of elongates that nipple and kind of helps the baby to have a little more to grab hold of. So number 3 is offering him or her your index or pinky finger nail upside down to suck on for several minutes. This, if you can train them on your finger, which I've seen done and I've done it myself, but your nail wants to be face down, and you can use your index finger or your pinky and just getting them to suck. And they do have to put the tongue in the proper place, which is below. As they're sucking, they just tend to do that. So that kind of helps. So that's something you can do in between. That's something dad can do. The fourth bullet point is breastfeeding frequently, as often as you can. This, I think, is really good because first, the baby's not extremely hungry, so the baby's more patient. If you catch them early, it's just less work for you. They're more willing to take the time and to figure it out. You might also try nursing when they're a little drowsy, and this we recommend in a lot of cases before you even start using a nipple shield, is just that when they're drowsier, sometimes they tend to latch better. They get used to the nipple shield and what it feels and looks like, and they catch on quick. So half asleep is sometimes really, they're much more willing. The next bullet point is to try different nursing positions, and this is definitely a good point and a good tip, because if they're used to nipple shield feeding in a certain position, changing them to a different position might help. When they're not hungry, when they're sleepy, when they're like just wanting to suck, that's when I would really practice, because sometimes for babies it's just a matter of practice. So the different nursing positions and practicing with the nipple shield not on can help a lot. Nursing while in motion, so walking, swaying, rocking, bouncing, and so forth, that's another thing that you can try just because you're distracting them. Do lots of skin-to-skin contact when nursing. We'll try nursing while you both enjoy a warm bath. That's another really good tip. Drip expressed breast milk over your nipple in the corner of the baby's mouth using an eyedropper or feeding syringe while he's at the breast. expressing a little bit of that breast milk or formula, whatever it is you're using, over your nipple kind of gets the baby to know that this is where the food is. The point right after it says if baby becomes upset as you're trying, stop and attempt to calm them down before trying again. If a baby's really upset, they're not going to have the patience to want to sit and try something new or try something that's been difficult for them. So try to get them when their mood is a little more relaxed. If they become upset at any one of these bullet points, stop, calm them before trying again. And if it means you have to feed them a little bit, do that. We don't want to be doing any of this stuff when they're starving. We want to do it when they are ready to eat, but not starving. So if you know they feed every 2 hours, I would say at the 1.5-hour mark, you could start doing some of these things. Now, the last ones that will pertain to taking the shield away. I want to look at my time here. 16 minutes. Oh my gosh. I guess it is as long as the first one. But there is a lot more points here than I expected to see in Weaning. But I think it is, I'm really glad that they are being so detailed, because I think it will help moms be a lot more successful. Okay, so some things to do before taking the shield away. Or the last ones pertain more to taking the shield away. So the other ones, you are still possibly using the shield, but now you're actually trying to take it away. So it says it may help if you compress your breast and hold it firmly about 1.5 inches from the base of your nipple toward the chest wall, usually at the edge of the areola, just past where your baby's lips will be, like squishing down on a big thick sandwich on a roll to take a bite. Holding the breast this way makes your nipple more firm, like the shield. Keep holding it like that until the baby feels like sucking, until you feel like the baby's sucking well, and then slowly release the grip. So basically, this would be the U-hold. So when you think of a baby, or you think of yourself, you're eating a hamburger or sandwich, and you press down and you bite. A baby, when they're laying on their side and facing you, you don't want to do a C. You want to, like a C from the side. You want to do a U, because that U will be a sandwich, like, for them, okay, because of the way that they're laying. Applying ice to your nipple before feeding to harden it. So I guess getting the idea of hardening that nipple a little bit so that the baby, it feels similar. I don't know. Babies are pretty smart, so try to notice if there's certain times of the day or positions that he seems more receptive during, and build on those. So if you notice that after nap time, he seems more receptive to trying without the nipple shield. So if you're practicing consistently during the entire time you're using the nipple shield, like in between feedings you're practicing on the nipple, then you're going to kind of know if there's certain positions or certain times of the day that they're more receptive to that practicing. And that's when you would want to build on those times. Try offering the breast without the nipple shield, particularly when the baby is rather sleepy. Sometimes once they take the bare breast a couple times, they'll continue with no problems. So I mentioned that before, offering it them without the nipple shield. And like I said, I think you should do this consistently, because if you can get off the nipple shield, that's really your ultimate goal. And because breastfeeding should not be painful, some moms will use a nipple shield because they think it's painful without the nipple shield. And so if you get the baby latched right, it's not painful, and it is so much better to nurse without the nipple shield. We talked about whether it's sleepy or not. I'm not going to go further on that. If baby doesn't take the breast without the shield relatively easy, give it to him with the shield. Do not allow him to become frustrated at the breast. That will only make him more resistant to breastfeeding. That is a big thing. You don't want to turn it into a traumatic experience for the baby, something the baby will never forget. And sometimes that happens in the first few days because we're so adamant. So try not to make breastfeeding that way. And the best way that you can do that is when they get very upset and they're screaming, stop, calm them down. Whether it's you might be bawling yourself, so someone else should calm them down. And then you know, try again. This is even before maybe you start using a nipple shield, because if it becomes this big, huge deal, the baby is going to look at it as, you know, I don't want that. They can become stubborn. We do that. So try not to ever make breastfeeding a forceful thing. If the baby just refuses it, especially in the beginning when you're trying not to use nipples, bottles or whatever, you can use the eyedropper or the medicine syringe, and you can feed them that way so that they're still not sucking incorrectly, but they're being fed and satisfied, and then you can practice and put them back on the breast. I used to recommend medicine droppers that maybe at a pet store that are a little bit bigger. In the beginning, 5 mLs is about what they take, which is a full medicine dropper. But then as they get older, that's not going to be enough, and you're constantly pulling that out and filling it up. So you might look into one at a pet store and see if you can find one a little bit bigger for if the baby's taking in a lot more milk and you don't have to keep using that. That makes it less tedious. After baby is nursing well and letdown has occurred, attempt to remove the shield quickly and relatch baby. Very gradually start to remove it earlier and earlier in the feeding until you don't need it at all. So you get them started, you get the letdown, the baby's happy, they're feeding, you know, and then you kind of like slip it away and get them back. I don't know how they do this, but you kind of like slip it off and put the baby back on quickly, and they don't even know what's happening. And if you're successful in that, then you want to gradually remove it earlier and earlier to where the baby's just latching in the letdown and they're bringing the letdown themselves and without the nipple shield. Sometimes it works to offer the first breast with the shield and the second one without. I like that idea. And this, though, would be only if your baby takes both breasts at one feeding. Some babies will feed their entire feed on one breast, and so this wouldn't necessarily be the case for you. But if a lot of babies do take both breasts, and sometimes they get their full feeding from one, but they still want to suck, so putting them to the second. So I like that idea that you start with the nipple shield, and then when you go to the second breast, you go without. Because typically by then, they're not as hungry, so they might be a little more patient for you. Not always, but sometimes. In the beginning, you may not want to take the shield away at every feeding so the baby relaxes and doesn't look for you to remove it every time. I like that point too, because they are really smart and they will figure it out and know what you're going to do, and they'll get panicky. If they're feeding and you notice they're panicky, like they know they're grabbing hold, and you might want to just hold off and wait a little bit longer to, you know, and make it where they're not expecting it, and so they don't get stressed from that. We don't want that to happen. Let's see. The last one is you may hear the recommendation to cut away the tip of the nipple shield a little each day until it's gone. This is not recommended for silicone shields because it will leave sharp edges. So if you're using one that's not silicone, I guess, I don't know in that case. I just think it's probably better not to cut away at it. But if it's something that you've done and it works, then, you know, I guess go for it. But definitely this is a good recommendation, you know, for safety purposes. Again, it makes this last point. This is not a bullet. This is just their last little point in this. Be sure not to make this a battle with the baby or he will resist more. Don't obsess with weaning off the shield to the point that you're robbed of the joy of breastfeeding. As long as your baby is gaining weight, then you have some time to play with. Keep trying as often as you can and give it time. There are some reports of moms continue to use the shield for their whole breastfeeding experience, but most moms have taken anywhere from 2 days to 4 to 5 weeks to accomplish completely weaning from the shield. Be patient with yourself and your baby while you work through this transition. I like everything said in that paragraph. We want breastfeeding to be a joyful experience, not a stressful one for either you or the baby. So don't stress about weaning. Don't stress about, what baby is sucking properly with, like if you're going to have to wean them and they are resisting. Try not to worry about that and do more of the tips that help empty your breast and making sure the baby's getting a good milk transfer and not worrying as much about the weaning part. Especially if, like I said, the baby's gaining weight well and going through their diapers, then you have some time that you can take to work with that. But like I said, keep trying as much as you can, as often as you can. And like my thing is, instead of thinking of weaning, think of it as practicing. And whenever you get the opportunity, put them to the breast to practice, because you never know when they might be ready for the breast. And you may not really have to do any of this weaning part because you just put them on the breast to practice and they've got it. And from that point on, they're breastfeeding without the nipple shield. So I feel like weaning sometimes has a stressful, idea to it, and it makes us stressful just thinking of weaning for anything. And so that can make us dread it, and we don't want that. And even the baby starts to dread it. So definitely don't put yourself through that. And, letting keeping a positive frame of mind. It's really, really important. And finding help, contacting a lactation consultant or a lactation counselor or a breastfeeding peer counselor, anybody that is experienced that can really help you with one-on-one support, observing you feeding the baby, observing the baby feeding so that they can possibly give you some suggestions. So that's it for weaning. I hope that is helpful. This is longer than my nipple shield video, but I almost feel like this is possibly more important because it's instructions on how to use it and to encourage weaning from it. So how to use it in the sense that will hopefully make weaning from it easier. All of these suggestions. So it's almost like it could have all been one video. I am going to cut this down, hopefully to cut out some of my babbling. But again, I hope this video really helps you. Try to seek help if you need to. I am available to answer any questions. If you need private help, contact me through email or private message. I have a Facebook page as well that you can check out and contact me through. I will do visual consultations through FaceTime or Skype, or Facebook now has a FaceTime. So I will help and observe as much as I can in that way. It is available to you if you would like. Hit the like button if this video helped you. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified when I put out a new video. I hope I hope you guys have a great day and that everything goes well for you. And I will see you guys in my next video.